Today, we have to confront a truly sobering event, something that's really shaken the nation. The assassination of Charlie Kirk happened September 10th, 2025 at Utah Valley University. Just a profound loss, shocking act. And what we're going to do here is unpack the critical reports from today, really focus on the immediate fallout, the responses from all corners. We're diving into 8 specific but, deeply connected events that frankly shed a lot of light on the currents running through our political landscape right now. So here's what's on the docket. First, President Trump, his big announcement designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. Second, Ben Shapiro stepping up with a huge $1 million donation to Turning Point USA in Charlie's honor. Very powerful. Third, that incident at Texas State University, the swift expulsion of a student who mocked Kirk's death. Just grotesque. Fourth, those frankly troubling comments from ABC reporter Matt Gutman about the assassin's text messages. Fifth, Candace Owens coming forward with revelations about the intense pressure Kirk was apparently under from donors right before he passed. Sixth, Greg Gutfeld's take his sharp analysis on the death penalty case for the killer and how it connects to the rhetoric we've been hearing. Seventh, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Well, his predictable deflection when he was pressed about condemning vile rhetoric from his own side. And finally, number 8, Secretary of State Marco Rubio taking common sense action revoking visas for foreigners who are actually celebrating this horrific act online.
Right. And these events, taken together, they really give us a window, don't they,
Yeah.
into these deep societal divisions, the struggle for accountability, for truth. It's unprecedented in many ways. These things demand our full attention, a clear-eyed look.
The assassination itself, the facts are pretty stark. Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, used a sniper's nest. Reports say it was absolutely premeditated. You got Discord confessions, DNA evidence backing that up.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the commentary out there, you see it everywhere, connects this horrific act to, well, the climate. This idea that years of inflammatory left-wing rhetoric, painting conservatives as fascists, Nazis, that it created an environment where this kind of violence could fester.
And it targeted someone like Kirk, whose whole mission with Turning Point USA was, centered on restoring biblical values, pushing back against campus radicalism, trying to bring young people back to faith and patriotism.
Exactly, his unwavering commitment to that mission. And this ties into that concept some are calling consequences culture. Basically, a conservative response demanding accountability for what they see as unchecked leftist extremism.
You hear analysts talk about the Democratic media complex, right? And this decade-long rhetoric labeling conservatives, irredeemable deplorables. The argument is that it replaces debate with demonization and ultimately violence.
And sadly, this isn't in a vacuum. We've seen other politically motivated attacks, the attempts on Trump back in 2024, even recent killings of legislators. It's a deeply disturbing trend.
Okay, let's unpack this first incredibly important development. President Trump's announcement designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. This is a decisive move.
It really is, and it builds on his efforts from 2020. Context is key here, right? Antifa isn't just some debating club. They have a documented history of riots, violent attacks, especially targeting right-leaning figures and events.
Oh yeah, we've all seen the footage, the black masks, the destruction.
And some sources point to, their own manifestos, claiming ties to actual domestic terrorism, like that attempted bombing of an ICE facility back in 2019.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, this designation, it's seen as a necessary step, a way to try and dismantle the networks that arguably embolden people like Robinson.
Absolutely. You see the fires, the smashed windows, the attacks on police. It's chaos. This move is about law and order, plain and simple, protecting American citizens from these internal threats. It's a fundamentally pro-America stance. All right, moving to the second point. A moment of real solidarity here. Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire donating $1 million to Turning Point USA.
That's a powerful statement honoring Charlie Kirk's legacy.
It really is significant. It speaks directly to Kirk's mission, doesn't it? That unwavering commitment you mentioned, restoring those traditional values, fighting campus radicalism, bringing young Americans back to faith and patriotism. Shapiro's pledge helps ensure that work continues.
And it comes at a crucial time. Right. Especially when you hear about the pressures Kirk himself was facing. Those internal debates, particularly over Israel policy, reports of major donors pulling funding, demanding their names be removed just before his death, because he was apparently resisting calls for, let's say, escalated foreign entanglements and sticking to fiscal prudence.
Wow. So he was standing on principle even then.
Seems like it. Resisting that external influence. And then, tragically, after his death, Shapiro steps in with this massive support. It really underscores the resilience, the commitment to those core values within the movement, even when facing such a terrible loss.
Truly commendable. Okay, number 3, this one. Well, it gets infuriating, but also, frankly, satisfying in the end. Texas State University. That student.
Ah, yes. Governor Greg Abbott stepping in, demanding expulsion. And it happened.
The video was just grotesque mockery, wasn't it? At a vigil for Charlie Kirk, slapping his neck, collapsing, mimicking the assassination. Just vile.
It really epitomized, for many, the kind of dehumanizing hatred that some feel is bred by progressive indoctrination in higher education. And this is where that consequences culture idea comes back in. Conservatives have been saying for years there need to be consequences for this stuff.
And there were, swiftly.
Exactly. The university identified him, removed him. The statement was clear. The individual is no longer a student at TXST. Accountability. It was seen as a clear victory against that kind of unchecked extremism.
Good riddance. That kind of demonic behavior has no place on a campus or anywhere, frankly. GTFO, as they say. Glad to see some sanity prevail there. All right, fourth item. Shifting to the media. And this is egregious. ABC reporter Matt Gutman, his comments about the text messages between Robinson the killer and his transgender partner Lance Twiggs.
Yeah, this caused a huge stir. Gutman described the messages as, get this, very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect.
Touching. He's talking about a murderer's text messages. It's absolutely despicable. The fake news sucks. This is exactly the kind of bias we see constantly.
Well, it certainly exposed, for many critics, the mainstream media's tendency to, let's say, humanize the killer in certain situations. And people immediately contrasted that with how Robinson's reported obsession with Kirk, or the fact that TPUSA apparently recognized him from FBI photos before the attack, was allegedly downplayed elsewhere.
So they focus on the killer's touching messages instead of the victim or the warning signs.
The argument from critics is that the killer's messages, rather than being touching, actually revealed a callous mindset, possibly shaped by radical ideologies. It really raises the question, doesn't it? Why does it seem like some in the media work so hard to normalize violence, or at least the perpetrators of violence, when it's directed at conservatives?
Righteous indignation doesn't even begin to cover it. The outrage over the press's role in shaping these narratives is completely justified. Okay, number 5. Let's bring in Candace Owens' revelations. She spoke about intense pressure Charlie Kirk was facing, specifically from top Jewish donors, said they pulled funding, demanded their names be taken off TPUSA buildings just 48 hours before he was killed.
Yeah, and this ties back to what we touched on earlier. This wasn't just quiet disagreement. Sources talk about a high-stakes Hamptons intervention, apparently orchestrated by big names like Bill Ackman, Seth Dillon, pushing Kirk hard to take a more robustly pro-Israel stance.
So immense pressure.
Immense. And what's fascinating, according to these accounts, is how Kirk handled it. Reports suggest he stood his ground, citing fiscal prudence, resisting what he saw as external attempts to dictate his organization's foreign policy, principled resistance.
Shows real character.
It does. And then the twist. Candace Owens reported that after his death, some of these same donors reversed course. It really underscores the internal fractures, the high-stakes arguments happening within conservative circles, especially over foreign policy. And it paints Kirk as someone with real integrity navigating that minefield.
Makes a stand even more commendable in hindsight, knowing that pressure. Okay, number 6. Let's turn to Greg Gutfeld, his incisive take on the death penalty case for Robinson.
Right. Gutfeld put it bluntly. He said, this is going to be a learning experience, not just for the people who saw this coming, but for the people who have to reconcile their role in this.
Powerful words. What's the deeper analysis there?
Gutfeld connects it directly to the rhetoric. He argues, and I quote, this rhetoric has been part of the Democratic media industry complex for the past decade. They believed that they didn't have to debate us because we were deplorable. If you remove debate, the only thing that's left is violence.
That hits hard, and it feels true.
He links it to surveys. Reports showing a significant number of left-leaning respondents apparently justifying assassinations in certain contexts. And again, that string of attacks, the Trump attempts in 24, the legislators killed recently, it forces a really uncomfortable question. What is the cost of dehumanizing your political opponents? Where does it lead?
This is it. This is the critical reckoning Gutfeld's talking about. A chance to see the consequences and, hopefully, need AT. This isn't a game. This is deadly serious. Which brings us to number 7. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. He was pressed directly about condemning vile rhetoric from Democrats like Ilhan Omar, especially after Kirk's murder. His response.
Predictable deflection. He blamed Trump. Just exemplified, really, the shameless refusal of some left-wing leaders to acknowledge any role their side's rhetoric might play in fueling division and hatred.
Even when someone like Ilhan Omar reportedly downplayed Kirk's significance initially, criticized his views on George Floyd and slavery, only condemning the murder itself after backlash.
Like frickin' clockwork. Zero shame, zero introspection. It's this fundamental unwillingness to take responsibility for the climate they help create. Always point the finger elsewhere.
It's deeply frustrating, disappointing, but sadly not surprising. That lack of accountability is just pervasive. Okay, finally, number 8. Let's end on a strong, decisive action from the Trump administration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, enforcing visa revocations and deportations. For whom? For foreigners celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder online.
Yeah, this is framed as straightforward, common-sense policy, rooted in national security precedents from the Trump era. The logic is clear. Target those glorifying violence, similar to how they might treat Hamas supporters celebrating attacks.
Makes perfect sense to me.
The administration's argument is about protecting American discourse, shielding it from foreign-incited hatred, especially when we've already seen, according to reports, over 150 politically motivated attacks just in early 2025. Secretary Rubio nailed it, didn't he? Why would we want to give a visa to someone who thinks it's good that someone was murdered? That's just common sense to me.
Exactly. It is common sense. It's a necessary pro-America stance. Sends a clear message about who we welcome here and whose vile hatred has no place on our soil.